Okay, so the recording started, right?
Happy October. Welcome to West Indian Women Network's first authors event. I'm Priscilla Ramcharan here in the United States, and I founded our network to bring people together from around the world and share what they are doing, as well as to take part in making a positive impact on the world. I'm fortunate to share this vision with our new Vice President out in Trinidad and Tobago, Miss Majida Hussein. Majida has been an incredible VP and has put so much effort into getting our authors together for this event. You can all see more of her contributions towards building West Indian Women Network with me and our incredible network at our website and our social media sites. As an author myself, literacy is a vital part of our growth as feeling beings, and I am always looking to meet authors from around the world and connect them to others who are like-minded and provide a space to share our work. Thanks to the magic of technology, we have made this event possible for you to meet our authors and support their vision towards expanding literacy. Today, we have an elite group of Trinidadian authors who not only play with their words and create coherent works of writing, they seek to help others learn, grow, and succeed. Please help me welcome them all. So our first author, Miss Sharon Cuffy-Young, is a waste management educator, consultant, and social entrepreneur. She holds a master's in environmental engineering and is a Fulbright Fellow from Cornell University. Currently, Sharon is the founder and CEO of Ciel Environmental Services Limited, with over 17 years of experience in the field. Sharon works with schools and also small and large businesses to become waste efficient. Welcome, Ms. Sharon.
Hi, well, thank you very much, Priscilla, and I am happy to be here.
You're welcome. So you can go right into your presentation.
Sure. Okay. So hello, everyone, no matter where you may be hearing my voice from, and welcome to all the discussion today. So I don't like to talk very much. Most people don't believe me when I say that because I talk literally for a living, right? But I just wanted to share a little bit about my book, Kai's Magical Adventures, Where the Garbage Goes. And it's about answering the question for little ones, what happens to my garbage after I throw it away? As Priscilla said, I have been working in waste management. This year was my 17th year. I look young and beautiful. I don't look it, right? And so I was doing a lot of lectures and presentations to school children, specifically primary school children. And they would ask me tons of questions, which I absolutely love. And one of the questions was, Miss, what happens to the things after we throw it away? So I asked them back the same question. I answered their question with a question. What do you think happens? And so I would get a variety of answers. We'll talk about littering. We'll talk about recycling and what that means. We talk about making better purchases. And so I recognized that these children were really, really smart. They had the information that they needed. They just needed somebody to let them know that it's okay, to facilitate their own thinking and curiosity. And so I wanted to leave something tangible behind for them so that not only they hear the story, but the lesson continues even after I've left their presence. And so that is where Kai's Magical Adventure started. It's also named after my daughter, who is 9 years old. I am a mom of 3, 18-year-old, a 9-year-old, and a 7-year-old. And when I started teaching the younger two about the environment, she really grabbed onto it. You know, I call her the recycling guru in the house because she makes sure that we put all our things in the right place. And I mean, it's so funny to hear her quarrel and argue with her brother. No, mommy said that's supposed to go in the compost. Why are you throwing that in the bin? It's so funny to hear her argue. But she's really passionate about this kind of work as well. She doesn't like when people litter. She doesn't understand it. And so Kaya was asking me a lot of questions too. And this book really is a legacy thing for her. So she calls it, Mommy, this is not your book, this is my book. I said, sure, no problem, it's yours. But I also wanted her, it was very, very important for me as well, for her to see herself represented in local stories. So both of them love reading. They have their own library of books here at home, but they never really saw themselves. You know, a lot of the books feature animals or things, but she never really saw anybody who looked like her on the cover of a book. And so it was very important for me to put her as the focal point of the book, not necessarily the garbage truck, not necessarily, you know, the leaves and the trees, or the juice boxes that I have in the story, but it was essential that she be the focus. She's like, oh, Mommy, the little girl looks just like me. And I was like, yeah. And now her brother's like, so, Mommy, when is going to be my turn? Am I not going to get a book? So I do have another one in the making. I promised him that I would release a second book. And so I'm very, very excited to be able to honor him in that way. So that he has his own book as well. I published this story in December of 2020. It was supposed to come out earlier, but you know, COVID happened, and I promised myself no matter what, it was still going to come out in 2020. Even if it came out December 31st, it came out December 6th of 2020. And so that was really important for me. The fastest thing is that I wrote the story really quickly. I sat down in 15 minutes and wrote the story. What took the time was the illustration, was getting it illustrated, was understanding the publishing process, because this was brand new to me. What I started doing was looking for other authors in Trinidad and Tobago, specifically of children's books, because my book is a book for children as well. So I found other authors who wrote books for young adults and, you know, adults, but writing a children's book has its own nuances. And so I wanted to talk to somebody who understood the journey that I was now about to walk into. And thankfully, they were extremely, extremely helpful. Like Philip Simon, who is the author of Petra and the Pui, and Mary Cuffy, who is the author of Lola and the Dancing Box and all the Lola books, right? So they were really, really instrumental in helping me navigate this process and answering my millions of questions, because I was filled with questions. And so I would say that as a means of advice for anybody who is interested in writing a children's book specifically, connect yourself with other authors who understand the journey and who can support you. I have held becoming a book author conversations absolutely free, because somebody poured into me, and so I wanted to pour into somebody else. So I had a few sessions. I said maybe I'll resume them again, who knows. But it was just me sharing my experiences and my journey and allowing them to ask as many questions as possible. And so before I wrap up my discussion, I know, Priscilla, you asked us to leave a word of advice. And so this is my word of advice for fellow children's book authors. Don't be afraid to leverage your network. I think when we write books, we feel like, okay, I have to do this all on my own. I wrote the book, I published it. But when it comes to sharing and telling people, don't be afraid to let people know that you've published a book. That is an achievement in itself, especially if you did it all on your own, because I self-published. I'm actually thinking about using a publisher for the next one, just so that I could have a comparison, but for no other reason other than to compare what it was like self-publishing versus hiring a publisher. So I know the do's and the don'ts, what I won't do again, because my husband promised me to write a book about me, my own biography, because he says, I'm full of stories and experiences, and I need to be able to share that. Don't know if it will be next year or the next 2 years. I don't know, but it's in my head, and so it will come out when the time comes. But don't be afraid to leverage your network. Don't be afraid to talk to people about your book. Don't be afraid to put it out there and to refer yourself as a children's book author. I mean, I put that on everything now, so it is really important, because you never know who's going to see you. You never know who's going to want to help you. And if you don't talk about it, how would they know to find you? So that was one of the major lessons that I have learned, and I'm still learning, because I am very introverted, and so I don't like talking about myself a lot. I don't like sharing. I was telling my husband up to yesterday, I was like, I like keeping things close to the chest. I like keeping things quiet, and because I still like my privacy. I mean, I don't want to put everything on social media. And so I like keeping some things very close to my heart and close to my chest. But when it comes to certain things, I am also in business. So when it comes to certain things, you need to let people know, especially if you need help, to ask for help. So I would leave you guys with that. As Priscilla said, I also run my own social enterprise. It's called Sian Environmental, and we operate in 3 buckets. We have a waste education and literacy program, which I started because I wrote the book, for children and young people. We also do online courses in waste management, in composting, in waste efficiency for businesses, both virtual and in person. And we also do some consultancy work. And currently we're doing a food waste study, because I love asking hard questions. I want to know, why do you throw your food away? If you do, what is the impetus for you wanting to do that? Would you prefer other systems to be put in place so that you don't need to? Because it's all about transforming the way you think and act towards waste. So thank you so much, Priscilla, and the West Indian Network, Women Network, for giving me this opportunity this afternoon. And please go get the book. It's on Amazon, and it's in local bookstores in Trinidad and Tobago, excellent stores, all the excellent stores, all the RIKs. And I also like supporting independent bookstores. So it's in Scribbles and Quills, it's in Academics Plus, it's in My Beach, My Water. So there are a few places. Or go to our website, www.sielenvironmental.com, and you'll get the full list there. So I don't need to go through the full list, because half the time I don't remember all the bookstores. Right? So go to our website, www.sielenvironmental.com, to find out more about me, about the book, and about our work. Thank you so much.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, Sean. I love the energy that you bring. And, waste management is so critical, because there's so much waste right now just sitting around. And what you're doing, teaching the new generation how to manage their waste more efficiently, more effectively, that's a game changer. So I really, really commend you for all the work that you're doing, for sharing it with us. And hey, why not put your work out there, right? But I totally agree with you. Some things you can keep to yourself. But if it's to help others, you put it out there, and we will scream loud for you. So look for all of Sean's links in our description box, and we will move on to our next author. So our next author is the founder of Foundation Readers. She's a mother of 2 autistic children, and she struggled to find reading materials and opportunities for her boys. So she decided to start a personal project to help other children and adults who struggle with reading. And here is her opportunity to share with you from Trinidad and Tobago, Miss Devrani Barrios. Welcome.
Hi, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Cheyenne. I appreciate your enthusiasm and your tips. So thank you so much, Priscilla and West Indian Women Network. So I started my journey as an author I wrote my books in 2016. I wrote book one. I have four levels, so it's foundation reader level 1 that I have up right now, and I have 4 levels. So the first level is all about phonics. So we started off with the just make sure you can get it. You see it clearly? So the letter sounds, and then we move on into simple sounds, sight words, and passages that help boost confidence. So to a child, they're using these simple words that they've learned, and I put it in a paragraph that is very unique to our culture. So the names like Mala, Omar, Sita, and Atiwa, it's in the book. So it's very local, and they get to read some, funny stories. However, they're also getting to use these simple words in paragraph form that will help build confidence. When they get into level 2, they get introduced to consonant blends. So the starting songs, the middle songs, the ending songs, as well as diphthongs. Level 3, we introduce syllabication, introduce vocabulary, simple comprehension, and we start with some 21st century skills such as research skills and stuff like that, so that they can get accustomed to using the technology for literacy improvement. My motivation was first for my boys to make sure that they have reading materials for them, but that started off as a project within my own home, and then extended to my community. Now I have a school for special needs students called Focus Learning Institute, and my books are used there, and progress is being made throughout. I also work with other schools that also use my books to help with literacy, special needs, especially children and slow learners. So I fell in love with literacy and teaching in 2011 when I was working with the Arrow program, and we went to a school in Labrie. And there I met a 15-year-old boy who still did not know his phonics. And the boy was he was so sweet, so kind, so helpful. And my dream was to help him read and, get that level of independence. And that's where my love for this area began. I suffered a reading problem when I was in standard 2, so I know the stigmatism that comes with it and the struggle that comes with it. And because I felt that, I don't want any child within my reach to ever feel that. And so that's the reason why, my motivation. And like Cheyenne, I've self-published. I had people, I approached publishers, and nobody wanted to take a chance on me because I'm new. This is very new to me. My books came out in 2020 as well. Yeah, in the middle of 2020. And the publisher that I used was Crayon Box Company. She, took my book and she made it into something beautiful. And so I self-published it. I don't particularly have a person that I can go to say, well, I don't even know how to do that. I approach RIK, so only RIK San Fernando has my books on the shelf. And Keith Mohammed Bookstore in the Kwesi has my book on the shelf. I don't know how to go about the others, so I would love to get it in Sharon's and stuff like that. So while I'm good with the academics and the teaching, I'm not good with the marketing. That's my weak spot. So that's where I need more support in. So I'm looking at avenues, and I will take Miss Young's advice and reach out to other authors to see how I can best get my books out there even more. The next thing is that I'm writing a novel right now because I love to write. So the novel is called Battered. I'm in the middle of it. And it's set in Gasparillo. So the setting is in Gasparillo, in Trinidad. So it's going to be a very local piece. And it's going to feature a lot of the struggles we as West Indian women face in our island. All right. Basically, what I'd like to tell others who are going into writing, have a purpose for your book. That's what drove me to finish mine. I had a purpose, I had a dream, I had a plan. And, you want to be able to decide what you want your audience to hear, learn, and feel as they read. And what I want my students to feel as they read is confidence. So my book, the first thing it does is boost confidence, right? In education, there's ladders. We all have ladders to climb. And so what I do with my book is I take the ladder steps, and instead of having it this big, I bring it down to this small. So it's small increments that they can grow, but steadily grow nevertheless, right? It's your voice. Remember that it's your voice. I am not afraid to stand up and talk for my autistic children or any other autistic child. I'm an advocate for them. And any other special needs child for that matter. They don't have their own voice. And sometimes their parents don't even know how to speak for them. So I coach parents as well on how to speak and advocate for their children, because we have a lot of emotional parents, but they don't know how to communicate. And so when I wrote that book, I wrote it with parents in mind as well who struggle to have that support system, especially for the single mothers. All right. So it's your voice. Don't alter it. And don't, when you're writing, this is your dream. You don't have to please other people with it. This is what you see. This is the need that you see. Plot your ideas. Let your characters adapt, evolve, revolve, however you want. It's creativity. And it's creativity with a purpose. I often tell my students when they're writing, because obviously the whole point of reading is to learn how to express ourselves in written word, right? So I often tell my students, hey, if you want to write about monsters and werewolves, fine, because Harry Potter was first books before they became movies. And, all of these things that we enjoy in the entertainment industry started off as written works, right? So I allow them to be themselves. The next thing is there'll always be people to critique and analyze your work. That's fine. Be open-minded. I've had people point out little typographical errors in my work, and I said, thank you so much. And I went ahead and fixed it in the next set of copies that I printed. So another problem that I encountered is actually having physical copies on hand, so that because book one sells from the minute I get 50 copies or 100 copies of book one, they sell within 2 months. So I need to get a way to have mass-produced copies of it so that I can have enough to distribute and to sell. All right. The books have gained some popularity. I have people from Guyana asking me for copies of all 4 levels. And I even have people from Barbados who are asking me to mail some for them as well. Level 4 is the highest level, and it's the highest level of reading a child can get, or anybody who struggles with reading. The stories written in level 4 was actually written by students from my class. So they put their creative touches on it, and I feature them in the book. So of course with parental permission. So that's me there in a nutshell.
Thank you so much, Miss Barrios. Great presentation. And you and I speak pretty much every other day, and she's always so excited to tell me what the children are doing, share their art. So it's more than just teaching for her. It's just a part of her soul to help these students. And the creativity that her books bring to them is firsthand. So congratulations on your new book. And we hope to have you back soon again. And all of Miss Barrios' links again will be in our description box. So thank you so much. All right, awesome. So moving right along, we have our next author, Miss Aniqah Beharry. She's a Trinidadian Muslim creative who hopes to nudge the world with her art and writing. As the author of But Are You Really Sorry? The poetry journal, she reinforces the ideas of forgiveness, the tenets of apologies, and seeking closure from within. Oh, that's so beautiful. In addition to placing on the regional merit lists for literatures in English, she was awarded a National Open Mathematics Scholarship. Using this opportunity, she studied at the University of Waterloo, where she graduated with a bachelor's in mathematics. Anika believes in her writing, that her writing is an extension of her soul. It's all about souls today. And to share it with the world is to be vulnerable and open. And she aspires to use this warmth to influence peace. So, Miss Aniqah Beharry, welcome, welcome. You have the floor.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. So my name is Anika, and in December 2021, I launched my Facebook, the poetry journal, But Are You Really Sorry? And this is it here. But Are You Really Sorry is a bit of a chaotic blend, like me. As you heard, I did math, and I'm also into literature and art. But Are You Really Sorry is a poetry chapbook, but at the end of each poem, there are introspective questions to ask yourself based on what the poem was about. So I encourage people to read the poem, sit with what I'm trying to discuss with you, and then try to apply the different questions to your own context. At the end, I really want to help you take a step back and look at the world and your experiences from a different perspective. The whole point of the book is that we too often look at the world as black and white, but there's a lot of gray area, and by using the book and introspection, I hope to bring color and healing into your life. But I'm really sorry. The main points at the end of the day is that we are all capable of learning and growing and evolving if we can embrace new ideas and criticisms, and if we try to work towards being better every day. And I know this is a bit blasphemous, but I encourage people to color the pages and write in the book. I know lots of people prefer to have their book being pristine, but I'm a big fan of working through things in a creative way. So I encourage people to color the drawings, and I did everything for the book. So I wrote it, edited, illustrated, did the copywriting, formatting, everything, and it was a long, painstaking process. I first started writing in 2018, and I have numerous writing projects that I've started, but this book, I really felt like it was time to share my work with the world. Usually I hide all of my writing away in old Google Drives and old diaries, but this book helped me to process my own experience as well. And I really started from a point and was thinking about all the different things that have to do with apologies. So how I would want to be apologized to for anything. And if we really think about it, think about a situation where someone really hurt you. We have this idea in our heads of what the perfect apology would be. But if we were to ever confront someone, and say, you hurt me, you might not necessarily get the apology in those words. And even if you did, it might not give you that catharsis and relief that you wanted. So, but I'm really sorry, for me was about coming to terms with the fact that you might never get that apology, and learning to give yourself that closure that, okay, this person hurt me, but I can use this to grow from it, and maybe one day they might as well. I really think that poetry is my purpose, because at any given moment, I'm always thinking about different lines, and I have a WhatsApp chat with myself that I just message myself as soon as I think of something. I have a bunch of different diaries that I drop little lines into. I think at any given moment, all the words are just behind this big dam. And I just, when I'm ready to write, I sit down and I flick the switch to open the floodgates, and the words just pour into people. So something that I want to share with you, if you are interested in, writing a poetry book or any type of book, is to remember that you are already a writer from the moment that you sit down and put your pen to the paper or your fingers to the keyboard, since, we're doing that these days. If you've ever written anything from an English essay to a whole novel, you've already done it. You're a writer. And this tip really changed the trajectory for me, because historically, there's been this exclusive honor attached to authors and poets. And so I always doubted, even if I finished my poetry book, even if I finished any, Wattpad novel that I was writing, would I ever be successful? Who am I to publish? I'm just this little girl in an island, who would, care what I have to say, what I want to write? And I would constantly have all of these doubts, and I'd call my best friend and have a whole existential crisis, with what's going on in the world. Why does my writing even matter? So think about why you write. Just like Devrani was saying, why you write has to be at the core of your thoughts. So I write because I think it's who I am. I'm never starved for words. They always come to me. And, at any given moment, I'm just always ready to express myself through my writing. Whenever I have a decision to make, I sit down and write poems about it to try and come up with what I want to do. For my last year in November, I had a whole series on star-crossed lovers based on Taylor Swift's Red album. So when I wanted to publish my book, I wrote a book, Contemplations in Doubt, that I haven't published. It's just for me right now, about all the different reasons and hesitance that I had towards publishing. And I wrote this book because I wanted to heal. So I stumbled upon two crucial things that really helped me push towards wanting to share my work with the world. One, I was already a writer. I had associated writers with being published and the esteem, praise, and fame. And I thought, who am I to want to publish poetry? These days, people are into insta poetry, not really my writing style. But I had been writing all my life. And even if you have, you are already a writer. And, the second thing is that to remember why I write. So I write to heal. And everyone has a different reason. So if I could write to heal for me, maybe it could help others too. And from that moment, that was when I decided, I wanted to share my work with the world, because if it could help me, then maybe it could help others as well. So I no longer cared about, well, I still cared a little bit about what others thought of my writing, but I tried not to keep it too much to the forefront. If it could make a difference for one person, then that was enough for me. So if you take any two things away from what I have just said: one, you are already a writer, and two, just remember why you write. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Very well said. That's exactly what I was thinking. You're writing for yourself to help get all of these thoughts out. I don't know if you're like me, but I have my little notepad next to my bed, my 3 a.m. thoughts, otherwise I can't fall asleep unless I get this information out of my head. So I totally understand. And yes, if you help at least one person, hey, that's enough to be a tribe, right? Good for you. I look forward to reading more of your work and having you share more about your experience. I love how transparent you are. in sharing your journey and your process. And, like Sean said, and like you said, sometimes we are nervous to put our work out there to the world. But think about if we didn't, right? So I commend you all for being brave enough to come here and share and to put your work out there. And thank you, Miss Anika. So our next speaker is Miss Sharon Underwood. So let me tell you a little bit about her. She was born in Trinidad and Tobago, like the rest of us here, and she currently resides in Ohio, USA. She's a retired teacher. She taught English as a second language for 20 years, all grades and all diverse nationalities. She continues to work part-time consulting with the local school districts to improve teaching models for the staff in order to enhance learning of English language learners. When the pandemic hit, she adjusted her goals, and tuned to writing, something that she had in the back of her mind for a long time. And so far, she's written 2 bilingual children's books, English with Spanish translation, and a third one to be published shortly. All of her books are based on Trinidad's wildlife and special places, and she sees more books in her future to engage all age groups and incorporate diverse topics. Please welcome Miss Sharon Underwood. So happy to have you.
But thank you so much. And I am so happy to be here and thankful, appreciative of everything I've heard today. And I keep thinking these are wise people, very wise people. So, and I'm so thankful everyone has decided to write so we can hear your thoughts and everything you have to say about your particular interest. And what I'm hearing also is that we have things in common because the environment is a big one, and helping yourself, as our last speaker, is it Aniqah, said, I heard some things in church this morning that she might like to hear because it connected with her thoughts. So I see connections with everyone that everyone has said, and even Ms. Barrios, her teaching is along the lines of teaching English as a second language. Not the same, absolutely not the same, but you're thinking about how to break down language so people who are learning it will understand and acquire knowledge. So a little bit about my books. I, as you said, once the pandemic hit, I really started to really think, because it started with a lot of thinking, because I take walks. I go on walks every day. I have a big golden retriever. She passed last year, but there's always a dog I can. It's really sad because she was 16 years old, but I'm always dog sitting. My daughter's dogs, or my sister's dogs, or my daughter's cat. So it take a walk with the dogs, and my thinking flows. I cannot think in specific ways. It just flows when I move. So I guess that's a tip for a writer. I can think when I'm walking. So you don't, or in the shower, it happens, like that, or 3 a.m. So it's everywhere. But you keep your mind. I think I'm going backwards, but tips for the writer, I try to make connections, and I try to keep my mind open and flexible, because you never know what will be useful. Something somebody said, something you saw, something that was done. So, I do that for myself. So I would advise people to keep it in mind as well. So I'll introduce you to my first book. And this is it. If you can see clearly, it's called Lost in the Mangrove. And the mangrove is the one at Caroni, our Caroni Swamp. It is near and dear to my heart because I want to make sure Trinidad gets on the map. Because being from Ohio, living in Ohio, I should say, people don't know what Trinidad is or anything much about it. So here we go. And it's written in 2 languages because my background in teaching English as a second language, I always want to make sure somebody else has access to my books, even though it's only Spanish. I would love for it to be in all languages one day. It's a simple story about a little girl and her granny going for a walk, going for a trip to the swamp, and all the things that she sees. The little girl starts to daydream, and I don't want to give it away too much because I would like you to get this book, but the lovely art is done by Jaden Baggett. She lives in Trinidad, and she was only 14, 15 years old during the pandemic when she did the art for me. So, and the reason I picked her is because her mother is on my Facebook friends, and I saw her mother had entered Jaden's art in a competition and she did a picture of the mangrove, and I loved it. And so the picture, I don't know if I can find it here really quick. This is the picture that she did. So, like the picture that she did. So I loved her work, so I invited her to work with me. And she was only 14, 15 and collaborated with me long distance. And we went back and forth, and this is the book. The translator, I thank you. The translator, I have to say, is from Venezuela. And she was one of my former students who learned English as a second language with me in high school. And I was really glad to have her because of the large Trini immigrants there now. I mean, Venezuelan immigrants. So I was glad to have her work with me to translate the book. And there's a little tiny bit of Trini dialect. I always like to throw that in a little somehow. So it's all Trini culture, Trini language, Trini people, Trini whatever is in my books because I want to get that out of my head, as you say. So that one was followed by, well, let me just say, in my mind, I had 3 months to do this book. It took a year. So it doesn't, with all the edits, all the collaboration, waiting on people, the lesson I learned is patience because I don't have a lot of patience. And so I had to learn. And anyway, during COVID, people get sick. So without being too personal, lots of things happen. So it took a year, this maybe not so simple book, it took a year. And then this one was ongoing too. This is called Manu to the Rescue. So there is Manu in the back, and this is a bird that is in Trinidad in the Nariva swamp area. It's the beautiful, gorgeous golden blue macaw. And like Shan said, we're all about the environment, right? I want to make sure these special birds, animals, wildlife, everything is noticed and protected. So this bird was almost all on the endangered or maybe extinct list if it had gotten that far. But my connection to this book is I saw the real bird in a bird shop near my house in Ohio. That's one connection. The second connection is a Trinidad scientist working with the Cincinnati Zoo in Ohio worked with the Trinidad other scientists in Trinidad, the conservationists, to bring back this bird because the numbers were dwindling. That project, when I heard the whole story, took 30 years, a long time. But they brought it back, so it's there. So you can go to the Nariva Swamp area, to the Bush Sanctuary, and you can see it for yourselves, look around. And they're so gorgeous and so big. So both my books are in 2 languages, like I said. So I'm really, happy to say that, that went to Maria, the first translator, also worked on this book. So she's the same translator. The illustrator is she's a teacher and she works at Bishop's. So coincidentally, she is the teacher of the person for this book. So, so something is going on here with my connection. So she's the teacher, the professional artist. Her work is gorgeous. And I just, I'm proud to say this is all Trinidad made. And so those are the 2 books so far. The third one I wished I could have said last week, but like I said, things don't happen in a linear fashion. They just, go all over the place. So I hope I'm in my last edits. The translation is finished. The illustrations are finished. So it's edit, edit, edit. It's a children's book, but it takes forever to edit because I do it myself. I have a couple of people look at it for me, but in the end, it's me. So I have to make sure I capture everything that I need to capture. And, it's my nightmare. There's a typo in it, but, we'll work with it if something like that happens. But, so the book that is coming up is about, a monster in the pitch lake of La Brea. So when Aniqah said La Brea, I was thinking, okay, there's another connection. So, that one, I wanted it to be timely with Halloween here in Ohio, but we'll see. I don't know how that'll work out. But it's all still based in Trinidad culture, everything. So, and in the future, I have tons of books in my head that I'd like to get out. So I need to get out of Trinidad, though, and work with a different place. So that's, one of my goals. But tons of things, that I would like to write about. And when I'm walking, like I said, I get my big ideas. And, there's so much I really want to say about, tips from me are the tips that, I would like to say that might help some people. I don't know. But a major, very significant piece of advice my husband actually said to me was after the first book or the second book, I don't know what it was. Is this a hobby or is it a business? So when I heard that, it really altered my way of thinking because it really was, here, there, everywhere, and, not thinking about it in a way too seriously. But it was during the pandemic, I have to say, in my defense, and I couldn't, get out there and do much and this and that. So, but once the pandemic has been, since it's over here, we say it's over here. I feel like my thoughts are opening up. So yes, I heard about the networking. I've been doing that, the social media presence and all those things you have to do to make sure it's not only a hobby, it's a business and you want to sell your books. So I have to make myself get out of this chair and go out and do things and meet people. But I'm especially concerned with making sure the schools, like everybody is saying, they're working with children. I love working with children. So I want to make sure the schools around me in my area, there are tons and tons of schools and people that I want to make sure that they know about my books and present to them and talk about the special animals and get them to understand, different things about different countries, all kinds of things. So, but our English language learners are the ones in the back of my mind. So especially them, I know they will have a better time now since the pandemic has, just to give you a little insight, in the United States, we must have programs for English language learners where they can learn English. I mean, I live near the big city of Dayton. It's not very big, it's middle-sized, but my children are also teachers and they also teach English language learners. So we all follow that whole big stream of consciousness and making sure these kids are helped, their families are helped for whatever their needs are and things like that. So that is just a rundown. Just to tell you quick, I do have a website. It's www.sharonunderwoodbooks.com. And also the last thing I want to talk about is that in the back of my mind, like I said, I want to make sure the families are getting the help they need. But in many, many school districts, there are also homeless families. And the ones in the district where I taught, those kids are in a special need by themselves. So due to dysfunctional families and whatnot. So I like to think about charity and how I can help someone in need with my writing. So a percentage, once the sales get off, that's my hope, a percentage will go towards, those families in need. So because I want to make sure they have the school supplies and different things. So I might have, I don't know if I've gone over my time, but when I was talking about going back, and the last point is for the hobby and the business. As I'm older, I tend to I'm more aware of the fact that time is passing by. So with myself, I'm impatient, but I feel like being aware of a deadline is important. I just don't want to say I'll be done sometime, anytime in the next few years. So, no, I give myself a deadline. As it approaches, if something needs to be adjusted, I have to adjust it because somebody is sick, something has gone wrong, whatever it is. So you adjust. But the deadlines are important to me, really, really important. So that's the only way I'll get my work done. So I hope that has helped somebody today. If I need to talk more, I can. Otherwise, I can stop here.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much. I mean, you have dropped so many golden nuggets for us that we appreciate it. And it just seems like you're attracting the right people in your circle. Your mind is in the right place. So I really do see amazing things happening for you. And I resonate because I also teach ESL internationally.
You're right.
Yes.
Oh gosh,
And I
that's
also
great.
dabble in charity work. So anything that we as the West Indian Women Network can do to support you, we will. And,
Thank
like you said, those inspirational ideas come in the shower. Where are you going to write them down?
you.
You know?
I'm not very disciplined. I'm the last person to say that I'm very disciplined and I write 1,000 words a day. It's like Anika. I have it jumbled up in here and then I get some time and I, push it into the computer somehow.
Just
So,
keep going, like you said, be
yeah,
patient. And honestly, the deadline creates a sense of urgency.
it does.
Because if you don't hold yourself accountable, we care about others and if what they get done and if the kids get their homework done and this and that. But are we saying to ourselves, hey, girl, you need to get yourself on a deadline too,
Mhm.
Otherwise, time will just go. So I really
It
do
does.
appreciate that tip. And
Hmm.
thank you so much for being here. We look forward to much more work with you. Again, thank you, Miss Sharon. We're so happy to have you here and share your wisdom. Our next author and final guest is Miss Katrina Khan Roberts. I call her the Trinidadian Mermaid. She is a tourism, health, safety, and environment professional with special interest in the sustainable use of the coastal zone and conservation of the marine ecosystem. Mrs. Khan Roberts has worked in the manufacturing and petrochemical industries. We have some phenomenal people here today. She's consulted on government developmental projects and has volunteered extensively in the performing arts and in multiple environmental and youth organizations. She advocates actively for awareness of climate change, sustainable development, and holistic lifestyle. She also shares information on anthropogenic, which she'll tell you more about, effects on ecosystems and the interconnectedness of human constructs via art and poetry. Please welcome Miss Katrina Khan Roberts.
Thank you so much, Priscilla. Oh my goodness. So I met Shan first in this group. And then I met Priscilla, and then I met Sharon, and now we're all together. And I can't believe how like-minded we all are and how many commonalities I've heard in everyone's presentations. And it just makes me feel like we should have all been best friends since we were little. A little bit about me is that I actually have always had a rhyming robot in my head. So I used to write poetry from the time I was probably 6, 7, 8, around there. And I always loved the ocean and I loved mermaids. So I don't know where it really came all together for me. I always loved writing. I always loved rhyming. I always loved the crazy stories that my imagination would come up with. And throughout my life as I got older, I was like, yeah, naturally, I wanted to be an author. I wanted to have that honor of being somebody who translates their words into, the images in somebody else's mind through what I write. And I also loved art, even though I was not an artist in the least bit. I loved art. I loved writing. I loved drawing. I loved painting. I loved poetry. It was just a mess of creativity, but a really wild science side as well. So I love the technical aspect of science. I did math, I did chemistry, physics, geography. So I was a mess because I couldn't figure out what I wanted to do. And I think the sciences won out because I wanted to understand how the world worked. I couldn't understand humans and I couldn't understand human nature. And I was like, okay, science is a little bit more structured. Maybe I can go into that first, find my way, figure out like how things work first, and then somehow bring my creativity back into the foreground. And of course, coming up in a West Indian home, creativity isn't really something that is, you know, promoted anyway. You want to be a doctor, you want to be a lawyer, you want to be, the usual things that we have to go through as West Indian women growing up in these households, with these preconceived notions of what a woman is supposed to do and, our roles in society. So in my little head at whatever age, I think it was 11, I was like, okay, when I retire, I'm going to be an author. But for now, I want to be an environmental scientist, a marine biologist, and I want to, embrace that aspect of life in Trinidad and Tobago, small island developing state. And I had the very great honor of living abroad as well. So I was like, when I came back and I started doing marine biology and stuff, I'm like, okay, I'm actually getting somewhere in terms of my plans, but I'm still not happy. So I felt like if there was always part of me missing, and I'm like, okay, well, I'll do it later. I'll do it later. I have time, And what I notice now is that we never have time. And we had some very scary stuff happen, recently for me. And that is what, unfortunately, was the catalyst for me actually becoming an author. And it's not something that I would tell anybody to wait for. Don't wait for something bad to happen to make you realize that you don't have time to do all the things that you want to do. I spent so much of my time volunteering, which was excellent. I gained so many skills. I grew my network, my friendships. I learned so much from the people around me. I built communities. And it was all really great because it married together my science and my creative, personalities, I guess. I don't know. I feel like if I'm broken into a million pieces to put together into a beautiful kaleidoscope of something sometimes, and it doesn't always make sense. And I know that is just my journey. And I hope that what I have learned on my own with regard to my publishing journey, self-publishing, I've currently self-published 4 books. And I never thought of myself as a children's book author, but it ended up being that my first book was a children's book. So the character Mertrina is a mermaid and Katrina together. So Mertrina, that my wonderful cousin, who is also a writer, Nadia Ali, she came up with that name when I was 6 years old because I love mermaids so much. I used to be swimming in the ocean like a mermaid. And she was like, oh, look, there's Mertrina. And I took that name and I created this character who is going to teach young people and anybody really who loves the ocean about the importance of the ocean ecosystem, and by extension, the entire world, because our earth is it's so small. Like, we don't understand that every action that we make has a repercussion on this system that we call our planet. So I really want to stress that my word of wisdom is don't wait for something that makes you realize that you don't have time to get what you want to get done. As a writer, you can always say, oh, I have time later. Or if you want to write now, you write what you can, yes. But always plan out what it is that you're going to do. Give yourself deadlines. Like everybody's saying, we have to have some kind of measure as to what we want to achieve. For me, it was achieving my first publication. I was really happy about that. But then the sad thing was as well is that I was like, I've done one, I want to do more. So now I'm this unquenchable thirst. And I, again, never thought of myself as a children's book author. I have 2 poetry books and the 2 Matrina books now. And I don't know, it's a never ending list of things I still want to accomplish. So I've learned a new lesson actually this morning is that I cannot do it all, but I'm going to plan about what it is and my priorities are in order to get to where I want to be. So that's my little word of wisdom. And I'm so grateful to the West Indian Women's Network and to Priscilla for always giving me encouragement when I feel like I'm just supposed to give up. So thank you all so much.
You are most welcome and congratulations on receiving the Youth Awards. Ah, I knew I was forgetting like the biggest part of information, but that's so amazing. And you said I inspire you, girl, you inspire me. You're out there, you're sharing, and it's such critical information that is the foundation of life, you know, our environment. So, I mean, I've seen you when you and I both started together during COVID, during that first Authors Expo, and together, you know, we don't get to talk every day because we're so busy. But when we connect, it's like fireworks. We share that vision to bring people together and help others. And Katrina is like the most helpful person I've ever met. She's always smiling. And, you know, I just love having you as a part of our network. I'll never stop inviting you to come and share and, you know, grow with us. So we appreciate you so much. Thank you for your words of wisdom. You'll never find time. You'll never get it wrong. You may never get it done. So just go where the feelings are great at the moment and build that momentum. And we're always here for all of you. Thank you so much. So we are at the end of our evening, everyone. It has been so patient, so caring, so inspirational. We thank you all for sharing your work and your journey. And allow these women to inspire you to start your journey, write your story. I don't know if you ladies know, but here in the United States, it's Preptober, where you prepare for National Novel Writing Month next month. So use this time to really get that power hour, sit down and get your thoughts out, organize yourself, make the time, because if you don't make it, no one's going to make it for you. So be sure to support our authors. Their links are all in the description box below. And since we're all sharing, I just had to do it. My new book called Globalization of Hearts should be out by the end of October. And it's also based on a Trinidadian who lives outside of the island. But as you can see, all of our hearts are always home. So if you need help with writing, publishing, or just to kind of do a brain dump, whatever you call it, connect with us and we'll see you for our next event. Thank you so much.